Hi everyone, Mike Avelar from Avelar Home Inspection. And today I just wanted to run through a couple of things for new home buyers and also anyone who actually owns a home with the home setup. First thing you guys should do is there's 13 things on the list. First thing is smoke detectors. Install or replace as needed. Home inspectors will take a look to note if smoke detectors are present, but I always recommend checking the date on it. It's really easy. You just take it off the wall, whether it's or off the ceiling, whether it's hardwired or not. It'll pull down a little bit, and there's going to be a date stamp on the back. Smoke detectors should be replaced every 10 years. The second thing are carbon monoxide detectors. They're usually the little square guys that you plug into the receptacles. Now the reason that you want to plug this into a receptacle is because usually you plug them in near the floor, near a wood burning appliance or your furnace. Carbon monoxide is a heavy gas, so it sinks to the ground. So the sooner you get notified, the sooner you can get to safety. The third thing are your locks. Now, your lawyer's handed over the keys, hopefully all of them, but it's still in your best interest to change all the locks on the house or garage should be locked up with new locks. Heating and air conditioning. When you first move in, you should definitely have your furnace and your air conditioning serviced by a reputable HVAC specialist. I recommend Cool Heat Comfort. Main shutoffs. Know where your main shutoffs are. Your main shutoff for your natural gas to your house is on the gas meter itself, but inside on the infrastructure, everything should be tagged appropriately. Your stove, your dryer, and any gas furnace that's feeding off of that line should be marked on the inside of the home. If you have a finished basement or a finished utility room, they might be covered up. They need to have a small access panel to get to them. Most fireplaces have a shutoff on the inside as well. Electrical circuits. Now, your electrical box may or may not be labeled properly already, but it's a good idea to identify which breakers affect which rooms. So now that you have everything all plugged in, you should go downstairs and flip a breaker and see what turns off, so you know, okay, if there's an emergency in this room, I know that this is the breaker I need to come down and turn off. Wood burning appliances. Now, before you use a wood burning appliance, your home inspector should have taken a look for any obvious dangers, any cracking in the firebox, any problems with the flue connection. The outdoor air conditioning unit. Now, most people don't know this, but most air conditioner units need at least 3 feet around the coil. That big radiator type thing outside your house. No plants, no grass, and it should be inspected, as well as your furnace. It should be inspected at least once a year. Your clothes washing machine. If you've got those rubber hoses, I recommend upgrading to the braided hoses. They're a little bit more expensive, but they're less likely to rupture on you in the middle of the night. Your clothes dryer. A lot of folks will have those non-smooth wall accordion vents. I highly recommend changing these to solid wall vents and making the runs as short as possible. The reason being is that the accordion vents will eventually collect lint on the inside, which means that there's going to be some place for the hot, humid air to be absorbed. So eventually those vents will start to corrode. Fire extinguishers, very important. It's always good to get yourself a fire extinguisher and keep one in the kitchen, and keep one near the bedrooms upstairs, just in case. And there are different classes from A to So Canadian Tire has a wide selection, Home Depot has a wide selection, and they're all labeled. Some of the containers will handle multiple different fire types. And if you guys have any questions about different fire types and different types of fire extinguishers, send me an email. Fire escape routes. It's important that your whole family is familiar with the home and the layout of the home, so it can make egress in case of an emergency much easier. Because the most important thing to do in a situation like that where your home is on fire or you must egress because of emergency purposes, it's very important to remain calm. Safety improvements. Your home inspector may or may not have suggested safety improvements inside of the report. So there are so many types of different safety improvements, and that might be a video for later on. I am going to start with the monthly. Clearly there's a monthly, quarterly, and yearly maintenance checklist that every homeowner should be doing. Some of them are actually repeated. During your monthly inspection of your home, your monthly walkthrough kind of thing, you'll need to check your smoke detectors, test them out, make sure that they're still working. There's a little test button. You just hit the little test button, and if it doesn't make a noise, then you probably should replace it. If your smoke detector is already beeping, that's a sign that you need to change the battery. Your filters in your furnace. Now you use filters all year round if you have an AC, so you need to remember to change your filters every 2 to 3 months. If you have pets, I strongly recommend that you change your filters every month. One of the other things that you want to test is your garage door safety mechanisms. Now everyone's familiar with the laser eyes, so everyone knows how to test that. But there are other safety features, 2 other safety features on an automatic garage door opener. So when the door is coming down, there is actually a pressure sensor. So if it hits, say, a small child who hasn't tripped the laser sensor, it would hit and then go back up. Now you can adjust the downward force. Also, there's an upward force. So if the door is going up and it gets caught on something, the door will stop and then go back down. This is so jackets aren't caught and there aren't any mishaps like that. On the back, like if you go to your motor, on the back or underneath one of the light covers, you're going to see 2 little arrows going up, and one's going to be for the down force, so when the door is coming down, and one of it's going to be for the up force. There you just need to adjust the little knob with a small flathead screwdriver and test it out. You can usually do this in about 2 to 3 minutes. Your range hood filters. It's important to make sure that you clean these monthly because they get all gunked up with grease and dust and they stop really working. So you're not getting the ventilation that you need. So you'll notice that after a while, if you're not vigilant with cleaning these, most of it's just going to billow out into your kitchen. Your central vacuuming system should be cleaned out at least once a month. At least once a month. Doesn't mean that you may not have to do it twice or every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. Quarterly maintenance. Sliding doors and windows. So to make sure that your sliding doors and your windows are moving along correctly, I always recommend to do a nice little clean in the tracks and then get some Motor Master spray-on silicone. Makes the windows slide freely, sometimes too freely, and especially for sliding doors. Also, if you have a sliding door with a screen door on the outside, sometimes those little buggers, the little wheels on the bottom, fall off the track. It's pretty simple to get on. You just gotta get down there with a little screwdriver or pop it on. Sometimes the door you can lift the door back up and put it back on the tracks. Sometimes the little wheels are on springs. During the springtime, very important to clean out your gutters. Winter was around, there's a lot of debris up there buried in the snow, and it's collected into your gutters. It's very important to keep your gutters clean because it's part of the roofing system that helps shed water away from your home, which is very important in keeping a healthy dry basement. Your air conditioning system, it's probably been turned off for the last 6, maybe 8 months. It's a good idea that you book an inspection with an HVAC specialist. And also, if it's been turned off before using it, it's very important that you make sure the power has been running to the AC for a minimum of 24 hours before usage. If you have a humidifier attached to your furnace system, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to turn off the water flow to that and close the vent. That way you're not going to get more humidity dumped into your living space. Well water. If you get your drinking water from a well, I strongly recommend getting the water tested in the springtime and the fall time. Also, if you have a sub pump, make sure that your primary sub pump and secondary sub pumps are working properly to avoid any flooding in the basement during the spring thaw. And now I want to go through the fall maintenance. So in the fall maintenance, we're going to see gutters again. We're going to have to clean out the debris because the trees are, the leaves off the trees are falling. There's probably needles and other debris that's collected in there. So we need to clean that out before winter comes around. So you have your heating systems and your gas fireplaces. It's important to have these guys checked out before your first use. So call an HVAC specialist. Your hot water heating systems. If you have radiators in your home, there's a possibility that you will have to bleed the radiators. And what this means is that you're letting the air out of the radiator so that there's more water inside the radiator. This will increase the efficiency of your radiators. Your humidifier on your furnace, you should turn on the water and open the damper so you're letting humidity into the air if you use your humidifier. Now, I always recommend that you don't use the humidifier on your furnace because it's out of sight and it's out of mind. I always recommend a small floor unit. If you have electric baseboard heaters, which is still quite common in a lot of parts of Ottawa, if you do, make sure that you vacuum them for the first time. Make sure that your drapes are not over top, like covering the heat ducts. They should actually be about 18 inches above that. If you have receptacles above your electric baseboard heating, do not plug anything into it because that cord is going to be hanging down over top of the heater. What will happen is that cord could melt and cause an electrical fire. Well water. It's important to have your well water tested twice a year, so in the springtime and the fall time, especially if this is your only potable water. Sub pumps. Make sure that your sub pumps are working, both the primary and the secondary if you have one. Now, on the exterior of your home, you're going to have several vents. So you're going to want to make sure that you take a look at each of these vents and make sure that they're cleaned out, that the caulking around them isn't cracked or anything like that. And you want to make sure that pests can't enter there. So annually, you want to make sure that you keep trees and plants and vines away from your home and also the air conditioning. You want to have 3 feet around your air conditioning of clearance on 3 sides. Trees and shrubs should also be trimmed back from roof lines and from the sides of your buildings, especially vines. You do not want vines up close near any masonry or vinyl or metal surfaces. What happens when you have those vines growing up the side of your home is those vines are actually penetrating the surfaces and growing into your home. They actually damage the building. Your roofing material should be looked at least once a year. What you want to do is you want to, if you feel comfortable to get up on a ladder and get up on the roof, I highly recommend it. But I do recommend for most people to just put the ladder by the side of the roof and to get up close and to see what condition your shingles are in. Now, if your shingles are starting to cup, curl, and you're starting to see little bald spots where the granula has come off and the slots widening, that's a good indication that your shingles are near end of life. Bathtub and shower stalls. You're going to want to make sure that the caulking hasn't been damaged around any of the areas that get wet. The attic. From time to time, you should stick your head up there. For safety reasons, use a flashlight and also use a mask. You won't be up there too long, so you can just use one of those small painter's masks and just pop your head in. Make sure that there's nothing living up there and that it's dry and there are no signs of leaks or moisture anywhere. The building exterior. When you're walking around your home, you should be looking for cracks in your foundation, cracks in the mortar of your brick if you have any, damages to your vinyl siding or metal siding. Check all the windows and doors and all the penetrations in the walls. Now when you're looking at the windows, you want to make sure that the caulking is still viable, so it's not cracked and dried out. If it is, you're going to need to clean it off and reapply the appropriate caulking for the windows and doors. Also, make sure that the doors are working properly. So, do they open and close properly? Do they slide properly? Check the mechanisms of the windows, like your sliding windows, your double hung windows where you're lifting them up and down, and also you can open the top ones. There's also casement windows, which are extremely popular. They're the ones with the little crank and they kind of open up to the side. You want to make sure that you take a look at that and lubricate any moving parts that are required, and check around hose bibs, PVC and ABS vent ports to make sure that the caulking is still viable, so not cracked or dried or anything like that. Exterior paint and stain. So there's a lot of places on the exterior of the home where there may or may not be wood. For example, most garage door entrances are framed with a wood frame. They're just regular 2x8s. Sometimes they're metal clad, but most times they're not. The metal cladding is usually an extra. On the garage door, you'll notice at the bottom there's going to be a lot of wear and tear over the years. The paint will start to chip and whatnot. It's always a good idea to check that every year, and if it looks like it needs an extra coat or some extra protection, that's the time. It'll extend the life of that wood member. Your deck may need painting or staining. Exterior grade. Look to make sure that the grading around your building is sloped away. It doesn't have to be a very large slope. Refrigerators and freezers. It's always a good idea to clean the coils, vacuum the coils once a year. This will keep your refrigerator and your freezer working at optimum performance and saving you money. Fire extinguishers. Make sure that they're handy. For example, like your kitchen, one upstairs near the bedroom, maybe one in the basement, one in the garage. Your garage door, your vehicle door, make sure that it's operating properly, so check the safety settings to make sure that they're working properly. And that includes the laser eye, the down force, and the up force. Also lubricate the chain to make sure that it's operating properly and smoothly, and you should also grease the tracks. For those of you who own a septic tank, usually they're emptied out every 3 years. It's important for you to set up a contract with an appropriate service provider. Thanks for watching my video. Really appreciate it. I hope that it's been educational, and I hope these tips help you out in your new home. Mike Avelar, Avelar Home Inspection. Thank you.